Welcome to the CareClinic Pod. I'm Emma, and this is Jones.
Ever feel like you're doing everything right, eating healthy, exercising, getting enough sleep, but your metabolism just seems stuck in slow motion?
It is incredibly frustrating. And a lot of times, standard thyroid tests, well, they don't reveal the culprit.
That's where things get interesting. Turns out there's this lesser-known thyroid hormone called reverse T3.
RT3.
RT3, right. That might be playing a role.
It's like a dimmer switch for your metabolism. Even if your thyroid gland is producing enough hormones, high levels of RT3 can block the effects of the active thyroid hormone, T3, leading to symptoms that, well, they mimic hypothyroidism.
So you could be feeling sluggish, experiencing brain fog, struggling with weight gain, and wondering, why isn't my thyroid medication working as well as it should?
Exactly. And even more fascinating is that high RT3 can be triggered by factors completely outside of the thyroid gland itself.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. For those who might need a refresher, can you give us a quick rundown of how the thyroid gland normally works?
Absolutely. Your thyroid gland, that little butterfly-shaped gland in your neck, it's responsible for producing hormones that regulate your metabolism. It all starts with TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which is produced by your pituitary gland. TSH tells your thyroid to produce T4, the storage form of thyroid hormone.
And then T4 gets converted into T3, the active form our cells actually use.
Right, precisely. T3 is like the key that unlocks your metabolism, allowing your cells to convert fuel into energy.
So where does reverse T3 fit into all of this?
Well, both T3 and RT3 are actually derived from T4. But while T3 revs up your metabolism, RT3 acts as a sort of brake, slowing things down.
Why would our bodies even have a hormone that slows down metabolism? It seems counterintuitive.
It makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Imagine our ancestors facing periods of famine or extreme stress. Their bodies needed a way to conserve energy and survive. That's where RT3 comes in. It helps to lower metabolism and protect those vital organs during times of hardship.
So it's like our body's built-in survival mechanism. But in today's world, where most of us aren't facing starvation, high levels of RT3 can actually backfire.
Exactly. We're living in a time of chronic stress with constant demands on our time and energy. This can lead to chronically elevated levels of RT3, even if our thyroid gland is functioning normally.
That explains why so many people feel constantly drained, even if they're getting enough sleep and eating a healthy diet.
Right. And it's important to remember that high RT3 can be a symptom of many different underlying issues.
So it's not just about checking our thyroid hormone levels. We need to look at the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Chronic stress, as we mentioned, is a major culprit. But other factors like inflammation, nutrient deficiencies, and even certain medications can also contribute to high RT3.
If you're feeling overwhelmed and struggling to keep track of all these potential factors, the CareClinic app can be an invaluable tool. It allows you to log your symptoms, track your diet, and even monitor your stress levels, giving you a holistic view of your health.
It's like having a personal health detective in your pocket, helping you identify patterns and potential triggers.
Let's dive into some of these triggers in more detail. We've talked about stress, but what about diet? Can what we eat influence our RT3 levels?
Absolutely. Crash dieting or severely restricting calories can send your body into starvation mode, triggering that ancient survival mechanism and increasing RT3 production.
So those trendy fad diets might actually be doing more harm than good.
It's all about finding a sustainable approach to healthy eating. Instead of depriving your body, focus on nourishing it with whole, unprocessed foods that provide the nutrients it needs to thrive.
That makes sense. And what about exercise? Can too much exercise actually backfire when it comes to RT3?
Believe it or not, yes. While moderate exercise is beneficial for overall health, overtraining can put stress on your body and trigger an increase in RT3.
So finding that sweet spot between being active and pushing ourselves too hard is crucial.
Exactly. It's about listening to your body and respecting its limits.
So we've covered stress, diet, and exercise. Are there any other lifestyle factors that can influence RT3 levels?
One often overlooked factor is sleep. When we're sleep deprived, our bodies produce more cortisol, a stress hormone that can increase RT3.
So getting those 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep is not just about feeling rested, it's also crucial for maintaining a healthy balance of thyroid hormones.
And don't forget about those nutrient deficiencies we mentioned earlier. Certain minerals like selenium, zinc, and iron are essential for the conversion of T4 to T3.
So if we're not getting enough of those nutrients, our bodies might be producing more RT3 instead of the active T3.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to focus on a nutrient-rich diet and consider supplementing if needed. especially if you're experiencing symptoms of high RT3. And the CareClinic app can be a helpful reminder to make sure you're getting those essential nutrients.
It's all about taking a holistic approach to our health, isn't it?
It truly is. And speaking of a holistic approach, we also need to consider the role of inflammation. Chronic inflammation from any source, whether it's an injury, an autoimmune condition, or even an unhealthy diet, can contribute to high RT3 levels.
So those seemingly unrelated aches and pains or that persistent bloating might actually be connected to our thyroid function.
It's certainly possible, and that's why it's so important to address the root cause of inflammation rather than just masking the symptoms.
This is where working with a healthcare provider who understands the complexities of RT3 can be invaluable, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. They can help you identify the underlying triggers, order the appropriate tests, and create a personalized plan to address your specific needs.
Speaking of tests, are there specific tests that can measure RT3 levels?
Yes, there are. While standard thyroid panels typically only measure TSH and T4, you can request a full thyroid panel that includes RT3 and free T3, or FT3, which is the active form of T3 that's available to your cells.
So it's not enough to just look at TSH and T4. We need to see the whole picture.
Exactly. And that's where the FT3-RT3 ratio comes into play.
Okay, let's break that down a bit. What exactly is the FT3-RT3 ratio and why is it so important?
The FT3-RT3 ratio gives us a better understanding of how efficiently your body is converting T4 into the active T3. If the ratio is low, it suggests that the conversion process is impaired, even if your TSH and T4 levels appear normal.
So someone could have seemingly normal thyroid hormone levels, but still be experiencing symptoms of hypothyroidism due to a low FT3-RT3 ratio.
Precisely. And that's why understanding RT3 and its relationship to T3 is so crucial.
This is all starting to make sense, but I have to admit, it can feel a bit overwhelming. There's so much to consider.
I understand. It's a lot to take in, but the good news is that most cases of high RT3 are addressable. By identifying the underlying triggers and making targeted lifestyle changes, you can bring your hormones back into balance and start feeling like yourself again.
That's reassuring to hear. And remember, the CareClinic app can be a helpful tool for tracking your progress and staying motivated on your health journey.
We'll delve deeper into specific strategies for addressing high RT3 in our next segment. But before we move on, I want to briefly touch upon a condition called Non-Thyroidal Illness Syndrome, or NTIS.
NTIS. That sounds pretty serious. What exactly is it?
NTIS is a temporary change in thyroid hormone levels that can occur during severe illness or trauma. It's essentially your body's way of conserving energy and prioritizing healing.
So even if you don't have a pre-existing thyroid condition, a major illness can still impact your thyroid hormone levels, including RT3.
Exactly. And one of the hallmarks of NTIS is an increase in RT3, which, as we've discussed, can lead to those familiar symptoms of fatigue and low energy.
So if someone is recovering from a major illness and experiencing those symptoms, it's important to consider NTIS as a potential factor.
Absolutely. And the good news is that NTIS is usually temporary. Once the body has healed, thyroid hormone levels typically return to normal.
That's good to know. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this segment, from the basics of thyroid function to the role of RT3 and the complexities of NTIS.
We have, but we've only just scratched the surface. In our next segment, we'll dive into specific strategies for addressing high RK3, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Before we get into specific strategies for addressing high RT3, I think it's important to reiterate that this isn't about lowering RT3 directly.
That's a good point. We're not looking for a quick fix or a magic bullet, are we?
Exactly. It's about addressing the underlying causes, those triggers we discussed earlier, and supporting your body's natural ability to regulate its hormones.
So let's talk solutions. What are some actionable steps our listeners can take to address those triggers and rebalance their RT3 levels?
Well, as we've discussed, chronic stress is a major contributor to high RT3. So finding effective ways to manage stress is absolutely crucial.
Easier said than done, right? Stress is kind of unavoidable these days.
True, but there are things we can do to mitigate its impact. Mindfulness practices like meditation and deep breathing exercises can be incredibly helpful. Even just taking a few minutes each day to focus on your breath and quiet your mind can make a difference.
I've heard that heart rate variability, HRV biofeedback, can be a really effective tool for stress management. What can you tell us about that?
HRV biofeedback is fascinating. It basically involves using a device to monitor your heart rate variability, which is a measure of the variation in time between each heartbeat. This variability is actually a reflection of your autonomic nervous system's balance.
So a higher HRV indicates a more balanced nervous system. and therefore better stress resilience.
Exactly. And what's great about HRV biofeedback is that it teaches you how to consciously influence your HRV through specific breathing techniques and relaxation exercises.
So it's not just about passively monitoring your stress levels. It's about actively learning how to regulate them.
Precisely. And you can track your progress and see how your stress levels are responding to these techniques using the CareClinic app. It's a great way to stay motivated and see the results of your efforts.
That's a great reminder. Okay, so
Okay.
stress management is key. What about diet? What specific dietary changes can help with RT3 balance?
As we mentioned earlier, crash dieting is a big no-no. It sends your body into survival mode, triggering an increase in RT3. Instead, focus on nourishing your body with a balanced diet, rich in whole, unprocessed foods.
What are some specific foods that can be particularly helpful?
When it comes to supporting healthy thyroid function, selenium-rich foods are at the top of the list. Brazil nuts, for example, are a great source of selenium. Just 1 or 2 Brazil nuts a day can provide your daily requirement.
Wow, I had no idea they were so potent.
Yeah.
What about other sources of selenium?
Seafood, especially tuna and sardines, is another good option. You can also find selenium in eggs, chicken, and whole grains.
Okay, so we got selenium covered. What about zinc and iron? We mentioned those earlier as being important for T4 to T3 conversion.
Absolutely. Zinc is abundant in oysters, pumpkin seeds, and beef. You can also find it in beans and lentils. For iron, red meat is an excellent source, as are leafy green vegetables like spinach and kale.
So many delicious options.
Right.
And remember, listeners, you can use the CareClinic app to track your meals and make sure you're getting enough of these essential nutrients.
It's a great way to identify any potential deficiencies and make adjustments to your diet accordingly.
Now, we talked about exercise earlier and how overtraining can actually be detrimental to RT3 balance. What's the sweet spot when it comes to exercise?
It's important to find a form of exercise that you enjoy and that you can sustain over time. Moderate intensity activities like brisk walking, swimming, or cycling are great options.
And what about those of us who love high-intensity workouts? Do we need to give them up completely?
Not necessarily. You can still enjoy those high-intensity sessions, but listen to your body and don't overdo it. And make sure to prioritize recovery. Adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and stress management are all crucial for allowing your body to repair and rebuild after intense workouts.
Speaking of sleep, we touched on its importance earlier. What are some practical tips for improving sleep quality, especially for those who are struggling with insomnia or sleep disturbances?
Establishing a regular sleep schedule is key. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, even on weekends, to regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle.
Creating a relaxing bedtime routine can also be helpful, right?
Absolutely. Dim the lights, take a warm bath. Read a book. Anything that helps you wind down and signal to your body that it's time to rest. And avoid screen time in the hour or 2 before bed, as the blue light emitted from electronic devices can interfere with melatonin production, a hormone that regulates sleep.
It's about creating a sanctuary for sleep, a space where you can truly disconnect and recharge.
And if you're still struggling with sleep, consider trying some natural sleep aids like magnesium or chamomile tea.
The CareClinic app can be a helpful tool for tracking your sleep patterns and identifying any potential issues.
It can also remind you to practice those sleep hygiene tips and stick to your bedtime routine.
Okay, so we've covered stress management, diet, exercise, and sleep. What about those nutrient deficiencies we talked about? What's the best way to address them?
As we mentioned earlier, a nutrient-rich diet is the foundation. But sometimes, even with a healthy diet, we might need a little extra support.
So supplements can be helpful in some cases.
They can be, but it's important to work with a healthcare provider to determine which supplements are right for you and to make sure they don't interact with any medications you're taking.
What about those adaptogenic herbs you mentioned earlier? Can they be helpful for supporting RT3 balance?
Adaptogens are a fascinating group of herbs that can help our bodies adapt to stress and restore balance.
Can you give us some examples of adaptogens that might be particularly helpful in this context?
Ashwagandha is a popular one. Been used for centuries in Ayurvedic medicine to reduce stress and improve overall well-being.
I've heard great things about ashwagandha. What about rhodiola?
Rhodiola is another powerful adaptogen that can help enhance energy levels and improve mental clarity.
So if you're feeling that afternoon slump or struggling with brain fog, rhodiola might be worth exploring.
It could be, but again, it's always best to talk to your healthcare provider before starting any new supplements.
This has been incredibly informative. So to recap, we've talked about the importance of stress management, a balanced diet, regular exercise, quality sleep, and addressing any nutrient deficiencies. Is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind when it comes to RT3 and overall thyroid health?
One final thought. Remember that healing takes time. Be patient with yourself and your body, and don't hesitate to seek support from a qualified healthcare professional. They can guide you through this process and help you create a personalized plan that addresses your unique needs.
That's great advice. And remember, you don't have to navigate this journey alone. The CareClinic app can be a valuable resource for tracking your progress, staying motivated, and connecting with a supportive community.
In our next segment, we'll explore the intriguing connection between RT3 and mental health. So stay tuned.
Welcome back to the CareClinic podcast.
Always a pleasure to be here.
We've been, diving deep into the world of reverse T3. RT3, right? And how it can, really mess with your metabolism, even if your thyroid gland is technically doing its job.
It's a fascinating topic and, one that I think a lot of people are struggling with, even if they don't realize it.
Absolutely. In the previous segments, we talked about how high RT3 can lead to those, classic symptoms of hypothyroidism, like fatigue, weight gain, and brain fog. But what we haven't really touched on yet is the impact of RT3 on mental health.
Yeah, that's a really important aspect of this discussion because thyroid hormones, including RT3, they play a crucial role in brain function and mood regulation.
So it's not just about our physical health, it's about our mental and emotional well-being as well.
Precisely. When those hormones are out of balance, it can affect everything, from our mood and energy levels to our ability to focus and concentrate.
For those listening who might be, dealing with both thyroid issues and mental health challenges, it can be really hard to, tease apart what's causing what.
Absolutely. You might be feeling anxious or depressed and wondering, is it because of my thyroid or is it something else entirely?
And that can be a really frustrating and isolating experience.
It certainly can. So let's, try to shed some light on this connection between RT3 and mental health. What kind of mental health symptoms might be linked to high RT3?
That's a great question. Because high RT3 can mimic the symptoms of hypothyroidism, it can lead to many of the same mental health challenges that we see with, an underactive thyroid.
Think about it this way. When your metabolism slows down due to high RT3, it can lead to fatigue and low energy, which can then contribute to feelings of depression and, low mood.
It's like a domino effect. One thing leads to another, and before you know it, you're feeling down in the dumps.
And it's not just depression. High RT3 can also contribute to anxiety, brain fog, and difficulty concentrating.
It's like you just can't seem to think straight. Your mind feels cloudy and you're constantly worrying about things.
Right. And to make matters worse, those feelings of anxiety and stress can actually further increase RT3 levels, creating this vicious cycle.
So it's this complex interplay of hormones, brain chemistry, and lifestyle factors.
Exactly. It's not always easy to pinpoint the root cause, but understanding the connection between RT3 and mental health is a crucial first step.
So what can someone do if they're experiencing both mental health symptoms and signs of thyroid imbalance? Where do they even begin?
The first and most important step is to reach out to a healthcare professional. They can help determine whether your symptoms are related to thyroid dysfunction, high RT3, or other underlying mental health conditions.
It's so important to get a proper diagnosis, right?
Right.
We don't want to self-diagnose or self-treat based on, something we read online.
Absolutely. A healthcare provider can order the appropriate tests, including a full thyroid panel that measures RT3 and free T3 levels, and rule out any other potential causes for your symptoms.
And once you have a clear understanding of what's going on, you can work with your healthcare provider to, develop a personalized treatment plan.
Precisely. That treatment plan might involve a combination of approaches, including lifestyle modifications, medication, and therapy.
Let's talk about those lifestyle modifications for a moment. We've discussed them in previous segments, but can you remind our listeners how they can help support both thyroid health and mental well-being?
Of course. Many of the same lifestyle changes that we recommend for managing high RT3 can also be beneficial for improving mental health.
For example?
Well, stress management is crucial, as we've discussed. Finding healthy ways to manage stress, such as mindfulness practices, exercise, or spending time in nature, can have a profound impact on both your mood and your thyroid function.
And what about diet?
A balanced diet, rich in whole, unprocessed foods, is, essential for both physical and mental health. Make sure you're getting enough of those key nutrients we talked about earlier, like selenium, zinc, and iron.
And don't forget about those omega-3 fatty acids, which are crucial for brain health.
Excellent point. You can find omega-3s in fatty fish like salmon and tuna, as well as in plant-based sources like flax seeds and walnuts.
And of course, we can't forget about sleep. It's so important for both our physical and mental recovery.
Absolutely. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night and establish a regular sleep routine.
These lifestyle changes can really make a difference, but sometimes they're not enough. In those cases, medication might be necessary.
If your healthcare provider determines that your mental health symptoms are, well, primarily due to an underlying thyroid imbalance, they might prescribe thyroid hormone replacement therapy to help regulate your hormone levels.
And if your mental health challenges are more complex or not directly related to your thyroid, they might recommend antidepressants or other medications to help manage your symptoms.
It's important to remember that medication is a tool, and it can be a very effective tool when used appropriately.
And it's not a sign of weakness to seek help. If you're struggling, don't be afraid to reach out to a healthcare professional.
Absolutely. They're there to support you and help you find the best path to recovery.
And remember, you're not alone. Many people are dealing with similar challenges, and there are resources available to help you cope.
Therapy can be an incredibly valuable resource as well. It can provide you with a safe space to explore your thoughts and feelings, develop coping mechanisms, and learn strategies for managing stress and anxiety.
It's about addressing the root cause, not just masking the symptoms.
Exactly. And the CareClinic app can be a helpful tool throughout this process.
It can help you track your mood, your sleep, your energy levels, and any other symptoms you're experiencing.
Right. It can also remind you to practice those stress management techniques, take your medications as prescribed, and, stay connected with your support system.
It's like having a pocket-sized support system right there on your phone.
Exactly. So to wrap things up, if you're dealing with both thyroid imbalances and mental health challenges, know that there is hope.
You're not alone, and with the right support and strategies, you can regain control of your health both physically and mentally.
We hope this exploration of reverse T3 has given you a better understanding of this often overlooked hormone and its impact on your overall well-being.
Remember, knowledge is power, and by taking charge of your health, you can create a brighter, healthier future for yourself.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, and be sure to tune in next time for another episode of the CareClinic podcast.
Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and take good care of yourselves.
And don't forget to download the CareClinic app. It's your personal health companion, always there to support you on your path to optimal well-being.